Hey everyone, Joshua Kirk here with you once again, and now it's time for my second year-end list of 2022, and it's a big one, my top 50 albums of 2022. I'm super excited to share with y'all this list because this has just been an amazing year for music, especially in the albums department, so therefore, narrowing it down was a bit of a challenge for me this year, but like I always do every year, I somehow made it happen, and I'm very happy with the albums that finally did make the cut on this list. So we're just going to get right to it. Starting off with number 50, Flume, Palaces. 49, Benny the Butcher, Tana Talk 4. 48, Meridian Brothers and El Grupo Renacimiento. Some fun and quirky Latin music on there. 47, beabadoobee with Beatopia, and then at 46, it's Open Mike Eagle with the conceptual component system with the auto reverse. 45, The Comet is Coming with hyperdimensional expansion beam, and then at 44, it's Kelly Lee Owens with LP8. 43, one of the most conceptual art pop records of the year, Kilo Kish with American Girl. 42, Lafourcade 47 with her best batch of songs so far, Shape Up. 41, one of the most disgusting sounding loud rock albums of the year, Chat Pile with God's Country. And then rounding out the 40s, it is Soccer Mommy teaming up with Monotrix Point Never on Sometimes Forever. 39, Hudson Mohawke with the sprawling and eclectic Cry Sugar. 38, Nas with King's Disease 3, him and Hit Boy continuing to dish out bangers. 37, Christian Lee Hudson's Quitters, some thoughtful singer-songwriter music on there. 36, Cheekface comes out with some of the nerdiest and catchiest indie rock of the year on Too Much to Ask. 35, Def's Dynamic Shroud with another sprawling and dense electronic album, Darklife. 34, it's Natalia Lafourcade with De Todas las Flores. 33, the return mixtape from FK Twigs, CAPRISONGS. 32, it is Everything Everything with their AI-aided concept album, Raw Data Feel. And then another conceptual album at number 31, the new Mountain Goats record, Bleed Out. Rounding out the 30s, it's Show Me the Body with their best and most versatile crop of songs so far, Trouble the Water. 29, the instrumental hip-hop debut of Kenny Beats, Louie. 28, Angel Olsen goes country on Big Time. 27, Ghost goes arena rock on Impera. And then rounding out the bottom half of the list, it is Plains with the heartwarming and beautiful country album, I Walked With You a Ways. We're in the top half of the list now, starting off with 25, which is going to be Gospel with The Loser. Pretty much contender for my favorite post-hardcore record of the year, as it's just got such amazing performances and writing. The journey that it takes me on is just very exciting and cathartic. It's definitely an album that proves that comebacks don't always have to be just kind of diminishing returns. Like, it really feels like the band is expanding their sound even further. And I'm kind of curious about that debut now because what they do here is just so amazing. 24, it's Denzel Curry with Melt My Eyes, See Your Future. Taboo, I think, is still his best in terms of individual cuts, but as a full body of work, I think Denzel really outdid himself on this record, and coming through with some of his most thoughtful and lush compositions yet, and his writing on here, I think, is really well done. Yeah, he's pretty much proving once again on here why he's one of the most special figures in rap right now. 23 is an album you've probably seen on every list this year. That is Beyonce with Renaissance. When I first heard that Beyonce was going to make a bit of a dance-centric album, I was like, oh cool, she's doing a dance record, interesting. But then I heard it and I was like, oh my god, she made a fucking dance record. And I think I'm just gonna leave it at that. You've heard all the hype. It's a great record. You should listen to it. 22, it's Sudan Archives with Natural Brown Prom Queen. Just a very diverse, uh, kind of sprawling album that is a little all over the place sonically, but yet she manages to do all these different sounds really, really well, and just her versatility as a performer and as a songwriter, I think, really shine on here. And really, I think the lyrics are the one thing kind of tying the whole record together. And yeah, she really is one of the more exciting artists coming out of the underground right now. 21, Danger Mouse and Black Thought with Cheat Codes. This is easily my favorite hip hop collab project of the year. Just between Danger Mouse's vibrant beats and Black Thought just proving once again why he should be considered one of the GOATs of hip hop. And I'm not even like an expert on Black Thought, even though I'm well aware of his influence and everything. But yeah, this record is just fantastic hip hop from front to back. Rounding out the 20s, it is the new Preoccupations record, Arrangements. I really feel like the band pretty much came back to what they do best on this new record while also trying out some new things. And it results in some of their catchiest, haziest, and darkest songs yet. And yeah, I think performances, songwriting, and production are all on point. And yeah, they came out with yet another great record. 19 is the new Conway album, God Don't Make Mistakes. I definitely think this is quite a career-defining moment for Conway, as this is his major label debut, and also some of his most emotionally impactful material yet. And yeah, he pretty much went all out on his Shady Records debut. Not just in terms of some of the features he has on here, but also in terms of he's really opening up about some personal trauma and his struggles with mental health on here. And yeah, it's a record that's very gritty and dark at points, then absolutely heartbreaking in others, and kind of touching once you get a little like deeper near the end of the record. And yeah, it's probably my favorite album from a Griselda artist so far. 18 is Dragon New Warm Mountain, I Believe in You, the new album from Big Thief. This record, I think, is easily their best in terms of it's some of their most experimental songs yet, and I think Adrian is killing it with the songwriting and the vocals as usual, and the chemistry she has with the other guys in the band, I think, is very apparent. Yeah, and even though it's not a record I go back to often because of how long it is, it doesn't really feel like an 80-minute album, and it's a great one for long drives, and yeah, that's about all I could say that you haven't already heard from other people about it. Number 17, we have the self-titled Muna album, which, if you are a fan of pop music at all, I cannot recommend this record enough. It definitely has, like, fantastic production and also just passionate and charismatic performances and writing on it as well. They really are one of the, like, indie pop groups to watch right now, and yeah, I just really enjoy what they're doing. 16, we're keeping it in indie pop territory with the 1975 and Being Funny in a Foreign Language, which is easily their best album in terms of production, writing, sequencing, flow, because the 1975 have long been a band that I thought was super talented and had really good ideas, but how well executed those ideas were, it varied across their catalog, but I think here they came through with their most tasteful and focused crop of songs yet, and I think Matt Healy just proves on here that however you may feel about him, when he's at his peak, he can write just some of the best pop songs out of anyone right now. 15 is Spiritualized with Everything Was Beautiful. There couldn't have been a better title for this record because I think it is beautiful, from the instrumentation to the kind of lovesick songwriting, and it's very just like charming and like pretty at points, but then very chaotic and visceral at others. Yeah, I'm not necessarily well versed in Spiritualized, but this album absolutely blew me away. 14 is Special Interest with Endure, which I think is really the fresh makeover that punk music needs right now. And also, I think one of the better protest albums that the year has given us. And I think there's just a lot of personality coming out of the vocals, the attention to detail with the production, and just how they sort of bring in those electronic and industrial elements. It's done very well, and yeah, they're one of the most special groups of this like current wave of punk right now. 13, it is Pinegrove with 1111, an album that I'm shocked made it this high, because it's definitely a record that emotionally impacted me more than many other albums this year, just because of how it seems to reflect on the last couple of years. And on top of that, the instrumentation I think is beautiful, the performances are passionate, and yeah, I think Pinegrove came through with their best album in my opinion, which really shocked me because in the past they've been a band that I thought was really tasteful, and I respected what they were doing, but like, yeah, they just never really clicked with me that much. But this album, yeah, it came out earlier this year and it blew me away. Number 12 was really close to being my rap record of the year, and that is Smino with Love for Rent. I just think this album has some of the most textured production I've heard in pop rap this year. He shows a lot of personality with his delivery styles throughout. It manages to be tongue-in-cheek, but also very thoughtful and introspective with its lyrics. It's a very fun and also kind of touching record as well, and a lot of surprising features on this record too. And yeah, I definitely pretty much appreciated Smino for what he was doing in the past, but I think he really outdid himself with this new record. But at number 11, as we get closer to the top 10, we have another album you've probably seen on every list this year, Black Country Road with Ants from Up There, an album that was this close to being in my top 10 of the year, but it's definitely not a record I revisit often because it is a genuinely devastating album, like even more so than their last one in terms of lyrics and emotional impact, and obviously the instrumentals on here are some of the most colorful and layered I've heard in underground rock music this year. So yeah, it's definitely a record that I may not always be in the mood for, but like when I do listen to it, it's one of the most rewarding listening experiences I've had with any album this year. So yeah, I definitely understand why people are so obsessed with it, because it really is one of the most defining albums of 2022, in my opinion. But we're there, ladies and gentlemen, my top 10 albums of 2022, starting off with 10, which is one of the most special country albums I've heard in recent memory. That is Adeem the Artist with White Trash Revelry. First off, some of the most unique songwriting I've heard in this genre in recent years, and I think the production is fantastic on here too. I think their performances are passionate as well. This record brings together just passion, love, heartbreak, and outright rage together, and yeah, it results in one of the most empathetic country albums of the year. Number 9, it is Billy Woods with Ethiops, which I've pretty much determined is my favorite rap album of the year. Just, I feel like this is such a masterclass in abstract hip hop, from Billy Woods' storytelling and imagery to the production, which is just so lush, cinematic, and sometimes unsettling, and with the way the record flows as well. It really does feel like a movie, and yeah, I just think Billy really outdid himself with this record. I mean, he was already pretty mind-bending and dense before, but just this record, he just took it to another level, man. Number 8, we have one of the most versatile and charismatic singer-songwriter albums of the year, and that is Madison Cunningham's Revealer. This record is a little all over the place sonically because it has one track you'll get blues rock, another you'll get progressive folk, in another you'll get this very ornate chamber pop, but yet the project never feels bloated. It's still very cohesive because Madison shows a lot of skill as a songwriter, as a vocalist, as a guitar player, as a composer, as an arranger, you name it. She can do it all, and she does it all really well. And I didn't expect that this record would also get a Grammy nomination, but I think it is absolutely deserved because this album is incredible. Number 7, we have one of the most boundary-pushing rock bands working today, coming out with yet another amazing record. That is Black Midi with Hellfire. I'm still the weird person that thinks Cavalcade is their best album so far. I just love how they balanced out the more intense, chaotic moments with these very lush, beautiful tracks. But that being said, I am all for the demented chaos that they present us with on Hellfire. Just some of their biggest sounding instrumentation yet, which just only adds to the mayhem, and some of their most conceptual songwriting to date as well. And yeah, this album just kicks ass, it's visceral, and it's just proof of why they're one of the most exciting bands in rock right now. Number 6, we have one of the GOATs of modern rock coming through with one of his best albums in years, and that is Jack White with Fear of the Dawn, which just has some of the most aggressive and hard-hitting riffs and production of his entire career. And yeah, this album just absolutely kicks ass, it rocks, and it's just proof that Jack White, even more than a couple decades into his career, is still relevant, still doing his thing, and doing it really well. But we're in my top 5, ladies and gentlemen. Number 5, I think this is really the young singer-songwriter to watch right now, according to me, and I think a lot of other people, and that is Ethel Cain with Preacher's Daughter. This sprawling, raw, passionate singer-songwriter album that brings together elements of shoegaze, heartland rock, and gothic Americana, and also the storytelling on here is just some of the most dense I've heard out of a singer-songwriter album this year, and believe me, it goes to some pretty dark and uncomfortable places, but yet it's still an amazing record that just shows a lot of talent and charisma, and I'm really excited to hear what she does next. Number 4, I think, is pretty much my favorite rock record of the year, and that is Viagra Boys with Cave World. I'm pleasantly surprised how much I loved this record because I wasn't the biggest fan of their last LP, but here I think they displayed just some of the most smart, fun, and politically charged music of any genre in 2022. And yeah, I think this record just brings home a lot of points that ring pretty true in this day and age, and also is just very experimental in terms of the production, and I love the kind of dance punk direction they went with this record, as it results in some pretty sick grooves on a lot of these songs. And yeah, Viagra Boys definitely made truly one of the most special post-punk albums in recent years, in my opinion. Number 3, I think, is definitely my favorite country album of the year, and that is Orville Peck's Bronco. I think, speaking of artists that really leveled up in 2022, Orville did that, on the vocal front and on a songwriting front, and I think this is some of his most lush backing instrumentation as well. And yeah, I think it's probably the best country album I've heard this decade so far, because yeah, it just really proves that Orville is one of the most special artists in this particular genre right now, and I think he just has an incredibly bright future ahead of him. Number 2 is an album that really surprised me how much I ended up absolutely adoring it this year, and that is First Aid Kit with Palomino. First Aid Kit was a duo that in the past I had known about them and thought they were pretty cool and everything. Had only really heard a few songs from them, but when I heard about this record, I was like, okay, I'm not going to miss this one. And wow, this record is just, in so many ways, just heavenly and beautiful. Like, their songwriting is fantastic, the harmonies sound better than ever. Love the colorful production throughout this record. There's enough variety going on to make it interesting, even with it being a relatively simple kind of folk pop and Americana album that isn't trying to be super deep or forward thinking. It's just done really well and just does what it needs to do. And yeah, there's just a lot of incredible bops on here and just very beautiful ballads as well. So yeah, bravo, First Aid Kit. But at number 1, I pretty much knew that this album would be very hard to top this year, and I'm not surprised that it's remained my number 1 ever since I first heard it, and that is Maggie Rogers with Surrender. I'm just so happy that Maggie finally lived up to her truest potential on this new album, because I hadn't really listened to her debut, but what I did hear of Maggie in the past, I was just like, she seems cool and she has promise, but like, she's just not really being given the right instrumental palettes or like anything. But with this record, I think she works incredibly well in a bit of an alternative rock context, and I think the production on here is really good and sounds very thick, and there's actually surprising detail going on with the production as well, and I just think her performances are passionate. They pull me in every single time, and the songwriting, I think, has stepped up pretty significantly. Like, this is the most I've emotionally clicked, I think, with a album this year, and therefore songs like Want Want, which of course is my favorite song of the year, a very cathartic listen for sure. And I love every song. There is not a single song on here that I would skip, and I really want to see her live because I think the energy this album gives off would just be further intensified by seeing her live. And yeah, I just think she has such a bright future ahead of her, and yeah, I didn't expect that she'd make my album of the year at some point, but I'm really grateful that she did, because Surrender is pretty much like perfection in my book. And there you have it. Those are my top 50 albums of 2022. I had a lot of fun putting together this list, and I had even more fun sharing it with you here in the video. And you know the spiel. Like, subscribe, leave a nice comment, and tell me what your favorites of the year are if you want to share. If you've heard some of the records I talked about, hopefully you enjoyed them as much as I did. But the ones you haven't, hopefully you've gotten some good recommendations out of this video. And yeah, I think that is a solid way to round out 2022 for this channel. And obviously expect a video talking about what to expect in 2023 at the beginning of next year. This is Joshua Kirk, signing off.